And you're welcome. It's time to let you know what you'd find inside of the dailies when you pick up a paper this morning. Front page, the headlines. Let's see if we can review a few of these stories that you might meet. We're going to start from the Punch newspaper this morning. Very exciting headlines. Big one that meets you this morning is controversy over alleged resignation of APC chair Adamu. Adamu allegedly forced to resign 2 days before NEC meeting. Party spokesperson Mum. NWC member, others, sources divided over resignation. Kiari many chair NWC meeting. There'll be plenty of information as to that one eventually. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention that I do have the delectable Titi here with me who will be taking the other papers as I go. But back inside of the Punch newspaper here, the headline, IG withdraws mobile policemen from ex-governors and ministers VIPs. This should go without saying, apparently. If it took that much time, then I'm wondering exactly why that was. NERC may okay tariff hike as electricity subsidy hits 2.8 trillion naira. So, Titi, let's talk about electricity now. Now, what have you experienced personally regarding electricity in your area?
So I have sort of noted a little more, a little less frequency of outages.
Okay.
So the outages possibly for about 3 to 4 hours a day at the maximum. Mostly when I'm not at home, so that's good for me. But of course, I think there is something happening now that's given a little bit more power to certain areas of Lagos. I know that this might not be the same for everywhere around Lagos, but I've also heard some interesting news about Abuja. A lot more power in Abuja now. I've also heard about Port Harcourt.
So with the power that you get now, do you think that it's fair to say that, okay, fine, let's have an increase in tariffs? Would you say?
I actually think...
Noting that you spend less on making your own power, well, I'm talking about people who still rely on generators.
I actually think now that a lot of people are spending less on fuel. When I say spending less, I'm not saying it's more affordable. I'm saying less on generator fuel because they're mostly using it for their cars now. I think they're probably going to shift that extra funding to electricity now that there's a little bit more power. So I think there's still a lot of people just observing the situation, trying to figure out how to balance their finances out. And eventually they'll be
we would also continue to observe. Final headline here I'll be taking from the Punch newspaper for today. Resists new scramble for Africa, Tinubu tells AU Forum. We had that in the news where the president was telling about the fact that, hey, don't pill for Africa, don't let them pill for you. It's about time that we began to take charge of our own resources and be the ones to export all of these. Interesting headlines inside of the Punch newspaper. Maybe you should grab a copy. Let's move on now to the next daily, which do you have, Titi?
I have here the Nation newspaper, and it does also start with a story focused on the African Union meeting that happened yesterday. Now, Tinubu says Africa must be active to compete globally. Leaders pledge commitment to integration and cooperation, and of course, so much more. Now, the story starts there on the cover, wraps up on page 4. But there is quite a lot of information on the Nation about other stories as well. A petrol subsidy removal desirable, says APC Chair Adamu. President set to unveil security plan, says Shetima. A $50 million power plant to drive Lagos economy. It also says here APC's NEC meeting holds Wednesday. Violence forces Olubadan to suspend Egungun Festival. Service chiefs face reps panel. Now, the issue of Africa competing globally and the headline in the former paper, I think it was a Punch
about the AU and the president asking that we take charge. I'll tell you one thing. This is possible, but many have argued that it will only be possible or best possible if we had a united African currency. Plenty of talk about this over the weekend, especially amongst my friends who are very economically inclined, and they talked about the fact that this could have been possible from long ago with Gaddafi. Very strange. But he actually had the intention to unite the African nations so that we can compete monetarily with other nations, like the denominations of other nations, the currencies of other nations, like the yuan or the dollar or the pound.
So you know where there's a question on that because of the in quote colonials that eventually have left most of Africa now. A lot of French-speaking countries, a lot of English-speaking countries, some Portuguese.
So there's a lot of division
So
already.
yes, there was already a lot of division. So if they are still working along those lines, the Mediterranean countries still wanted to have some sort of hold on them. But if I would have thought it would have been a West African country currency or a South African currency, an East African currency, I think that is more possible than unifying the whole of Africa.
Let's see if we can get your suggestions across. Let's move on now to the Vanguard newspaper for this morning. Subsidy removal. FG targets two-pronged relief for workers to provide palliatives, pay 200,000 naira minimum wage, that would be likable, and to empower states to pay new wages. Plenty of talk on that one as well regarding what kind of palliatives or subsidy that could come after the subsidy removal. There's still more on the Vanguard at the top here. Insurgency military might alone can't solve crisis in Northeast, says the VP Shetima, and Tinubu affirms Africa's unity once against new scramble for continent. We saw that in past papers. Illegal farmers charge. Lawyers, activists demand Emefiele's immediate release. He's been asked to be released if they're not going to charge currently. And also, let's see, to the side of the Vanguard newspaper, adulterated aviation fuel floods Lagos, Kano, and Abuja. And 8,000 naira, too small to ease pains of fuel subsidy removal. That was also hard on people's thoughts. I
was thinking about the aviation fuel. There is an airline, I won't mention the name now, that has been grounded because apparently, now this is from the grapevine, not actually official news, that the fuel was adulterated with water. You imagine how terrible it is for a fleet of planes to have water in their tanks. It does feel, in my opinion, like something that has to do with sabotage. I'm just saying. Well, but it's crazy. If you can't get a handle on aviation fuel, that is a safety issue. It's a national security issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's move on now to the Guardian, shall we? Guardian's got this big headline here. Decongesting Lagos ports. Cash crunch investors' apathy saw $8.5 billion deep-sea port projects. At the top of the Guardian, Tinubu Ruto call for financially autonomous AU, reject fresh scramble for Africa. On all the papers, this one. APC neck anxiety over resignation of Abdullahi and Adamu. At the bottom of the Guardian, why president must avoid illegal tenure extension for public officers. And Serap urges National Assembly to drop plan for 110 billion naira bulletproof cars and others. Should we be spending on that much for at this time? Well, plenty of arguments regarding that or where to channel these monies. Yeah. But those are the headlines inside of the Guardian. Do you want to touch on any real quick?
I was just looking at the price of cement. We talked a bit about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
I can still remember buying cement for about 900 naira. This is probably like 50.
And this is 6,000 naira.
6,000 naira now. I just have a question. Is it the same price that cement is being sold in Nigeria that is being sold in other West African countries? Just have a question on that. Maybe someone can answer that one. Haulage costs, getting it from A to B within Nigeria probably is contributing to the cost of cement at this point.
Well,
but there might be other factors as well.
As much as we can take for the headlines now, isn't it, Titi?
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you for joining us. At least now you know which one to get and what to read this morning when you head out to perhaps maybe go about your daily activities.